Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Optimum Human Podcast. Joining me today is a very, very awesomely accented guest, well, at least for us in North America, Christopher Peacock. Christopher, how are you doing today?
Hey, Claude, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Brian, how are you doing?
Oh, doing excellent, man. How are you
Are you
guys doing?
really? Are you really?
Yes, I'm excellent.
Good. It's all about that perfect mindset. So Chris, for people who don't know, you run a website called sacredscotsman.co.uk. But like, if you had to describe yourself in 2 minutes, or like you had like a long elevator ride to, somebody asks you, "Hey, what do you do?" What would you tell them?
The elevator pitch. It's always a good start.
Well,
um,
it could be like an escalator too, or
yeah.
whatever.
So typically right now, the work that I'm doing just now is just helping, it's more sort of healing orientated and helping people with personal development, personal growth, using sort of multiple disciplines and a lot of the variety of the teachings that I've went through, studying as well as my own sort of natural gifts, if you want to say it, and intuition, I guess. But yeah, so I just I help people. That I was going to say a really cliched line here, but I help people be better versions of themselves. But it's really about just working through sort of your own limiting beliefs, working through your limitations, and anything that's kind of blocking you from really achieving the sort of life and lifestyle that you want to live. So it can be quite varied, but I try and keep it under personal development and personal growth.
Right on. Awesome. Awesome. Brian, do you have any questions that directly feed off of that, or
Uh,
I mean, I can go if
yeah, you take
yeah.
the lead, man.
So, Christopher, I kind of just want to jump kind of into the meat and potatoes. What do most people come to you for? I mean, every situation, every case is different, but what do you see the most of?
Well,
Like emotional
when I
trauma, like
like when I am based somewhere where I'm actually seeing people physically, like on a one-to-one basis, it's usually like some of the body work that I do, which is called de-armouring. So they're actually coming to it's working on emotions, it's working on releasing or reconnecting, and that is specifically what that therapy does. It really is about access and emotional release so that you can remove any energetical blockages, remove any emotional blockages, and sort of let go of the shit that's holding you back, type
mm,
thing. Like, a lot of it, there's many sort of analogies and metaphors about carrying baggage, like especially when you refer to relationships, or he's got a lot of baggage or she's got a lot of baggage,
yeah,
which I'm sure we've all heard many times before. But it really does help to offload any baggage that we no longer need or no longer hold on to. So ultimately, it's for reconnection to self, releasing old trapped emotions or old trapped patterns when I do that sort of body work. For clients that I've got around the world, that I do a lot of sort of remote healing work, so it's
mm,
like intuitive shamanic healing, and I also do it's like I get information during the session as well. So you could say that I give people readings, or you could say it's channeling, whatever label you want to give it. But ultimately, I also give people information on a sort of metaphorical level to help them progress
no,
through whatever they're working on. Because the energetical, the shamanic work that I do, it's very open. It can be physical ailments, or it can be business problems, it can be personal problems, it can be money related blockages, it could be anything. I mean, I've had a whole host of variety of stuff, and there isn't anything that I can't work on with that. But at the same time, with it being energetical focused and releasing energetical blockages and such, it's sometimes there's a lot more other things that come into the session than what the person came for. Like if they come for working on sort of grief or guilt through some sort of relationship trauma or relationship troubles, there can be a whole host of other stuff that comes in from the past. It can be inner child stuff. It can be limiting beliefs or programs that were picked up from the parents. There can be ancestral stuff. It's it's really so wide and varied on that one. But yeah, if I kind of, I'll leave it at that at the moment.
Right on. And with de-armoring, like what does a kind of like a session look like? Because that's the first time I've heard de-armoring, but it sounds like really cool. I was reading about it on the website, and I mean, like, I understand kind of the basis because you just
Yeah.
explained it, and I kind of understand de-armoring. It's actually a very good word for it. But
hmm
like, what does like somebody comes in, they've got issues. What does it kind of look like?
What physically, it's people will get on my massage table. It can be done on like a futon type thing,
Mm,
and basically it's body work. So it's hands-on work with me using either my fingertips, my knuckles, my fists, my elbows, knees, whatever's needed. To very and it's very much on a simplistic term. If you're thinking on a sort of clinical level, it would be like a 2 hour trigger point massage for the full body,
mm,
which, as you can imagine, can be quite painful. And that is part of it. You are actually working with the pain body. You're working towards the pain threshold or
mm,
going through it. And it's almost like you can almost be creating a little bit of stress and trauma for the person to connect to the emotional blockage that they've been holding or carrying. And see, to be honest as well, to kind of jump off here a little bit, when I'm talking about putting pressure on people's bodies, everyone's very individual and dependent on where the sort of blockages are, depends on how much pressure I actually need. Very little pressure could cause quite a lot of physical pain or discomfort, as well as the complete opposite. I can be having my elbow getting stuck into someone and they don't feel a thing, simply because there isn't anything to shift in that part of the body.
mm,
What I surely should have said earlier was that the de-armoring is about releasing trapped emotion within the cellular level of the tissues in the body. So if you think about the brain storing the memories, the tissues, our cells, our body store the emotions. So if you've had sort of traumatic or stressful events when you were a child and stuff, we can store the negative emotions. An analogy I always use is the car crash. So if you've ever experienced a car crash, whether you're the driver or passenger,
mm,
you can experience things like fear, panic, confusion. And so you've got three emotions there, and every time you experience the three of them together in a similar sort of situation or a stressful event, you're reinforcing those negative emotions, and they can create blockages. And that's essentially the armor. The more time that you go through experiences that reinforce those negative emotions, your armor gets bigger, it gets thicker, or it gets stronger.
mm.
So you're really talking about breaking the armor so that people can get in touch with their emotional body again.
And that's
And
scary for
that's
a lot
what,
of people.
yeah, no, it really is. It's not like a therapy to be sort of trifled with, to think. What's the word? It's not a soft therapy, is probably a
Mm,
good way of describing it. People who are very, very aware and very in tune with their body can go through deep energetic healing on multiple levels, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and really connect to some inner child stuff. It can even go into past life stuff if you believe in any of that stuff.
wow.
But if someone's very, very closed down, they're not aware, they've not really done any or very little personal development work, sort of spiritual growth stuff, they've maybe never even received acupuncture or Reiki or reflexology, they've never had therapy. They
Mm,
might only get the physical release from it. They might just feel it on a physical level. Sorry, is what I'm trying to say. Where having the pressure applied to parts of the body will help release tension and will help release any sort of physical ailments that they may have in those areas. So they come away with physical relaxation, but people who are much more attuned, much more connected to the body, it can go to a much more deeper and have a bigger impact as well.
awesome.
Oh, yeah, I'm personally going through a lot of this work myself with a coach myself, and this is all bringing a lot of stuff up for me. Frankly, just talking about it as in depth as you are, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing is the work that I'm talking about. You get people like Louise Hay and like Byron Katie and Caroline Mice or Miss. I've never heard.
Mace.
Yeah. That's how you pronounce her surname. I've never heard how to pronounce it properly. But these people are people who also look at sort of the how our emotions are stored in our body, and if we're getting physical ailments in certain parts of our body as well as certain organs, like what emotions does it connect to and what sort of works may be required. You've also no doubt heard of Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's got his most famous book is The Molecules of Emotions. If I think that's the right title for it.
I gotta look that up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Brian. So there's a lot of stuff about how our physical body can hold on to emotions, negative or positive, and with negative emotions being trapped in the body and holding on to that stuff, it really can accelerate physical disruption in the body. So you're looking at disease, you're looking at disruption and physical ailments, you're looking at physical weaknesses. So if someone has a fall and they break a bone, what part of the body did they break, and what is that connected to with regards to infant development or the whole physical development, as in the way I work with the energies and working with energy zones or chakras, as they're also called, each have their own stage of development. They also are related to age ranges as well. So if say for example someone broke an arm, well, the arm connects right through the throat chakra. The throat energy zone is specifically with my teachings connected through expression and communication. So therefore, the reason they got potentially broke that arm, or one of the many, can be that there's a strong blockage in that energy field. There's a strong blockage in that chakra, which has weakened the body physically throughout the area from the fingertips all the way through the arms, elbows, shoulders, through the neck, and through that sort of clavicle, the upper body area. But it also relates to a specific age range. So then I also look at, well, if you have had trauma or have had stress, what age range were you in? What age were you in? And how does it all connect? With both of us, or all of us, I should say, having done similar training through the Czech Institute. And if you guys have done any of the HLC stuff, the holistic lifestyle coaching, you'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so I really kind of use a lot of the Czech stuff as a way of mapping and almost like pathology for anything with any sort of symptoms or any sort of issues that people are coming to me with. I'll integrate that into a lot of the healing work that I do, with whether it's the shamanic stuff or whether it's the Tantra or whether it's the body work and stuff that I do.
Awesome. Now, with the infant development stuff, so some of our listeners might not be very familiar with that. Could you just give us like a brief overview of what that means and kind of what that entails?
So, well, with the extent that I've studied on the infant development, for me, it's more around the sort of inner child stuff. So, what lessons did you pick up in your early days type thing? What limiting beliefs? For example, I grew up with my parents and grandparents very much saying children should be seen and not heard.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, straight away, I've got a restriction on my communication. So straight away, there is potential there to create energetical blockages through that energy field, through the fifth chakra, the fifth energy zone. So my neck, my shoulders, elbows, right all the way through. If people have had, I'm trying to think how else. So the infant development stuff. I'm just going to have a break. Is that noise from my neighbour creating a lot of sound on this?
Yeah, it might be. It sounds like he's drilling through your wall trying to get a peephole or something to watch you. I don't know.
Yeah, so we're recording again, but so folks, if you couldn't figure it out, we had some audio difficulties with Christopher's neighbor,
Hey,
and
he cut the podcast in half, so
yeah, so
here we
now
are.
we're he was generous enough to give us a little window to finish our podcast, so we'll do our best to wrap it up.
We'll take full advantage of this. So, Chris, I think where we got
Sawed in half.
Yeah, sawed in half was God, that doesn't sound good. I
Are
think
we
we were talking about
magicians?
infant
Yeah,
development.
that's development. So what I kind of basically was saying was the infant development work that I kind of work with is more on a sort of psychological level of what imprints did you pick up, what limiting beliefs, potential limiting beliefs did you pick up from parents, from grandparents, from teachers, like the people who were raising you. So, and I mentioned earlier, limiting beliefs like children should be seen and not heard. So straight away you've got a blocker on your communication. Money doesn't grow on trees is another thing that
Oh,
is a common one over here in Scotland. So it's these beliefs of scarcity, or these beliefs of that you're not allowed to express yourself. Another one is big boys don't cry, especially for us guys.
oh man,
So
yeah.
a statement that it's not okay to show or release emotion because for any number of reasons, it shows weakness, it shows you're not strong enough, it shows that um, you're being very. I'm trying to think of a PC way of putting this, but
Well, there's
it's
also
if you cry, you're being a big girl type thing.
yeah,
So
and to
many
go
of that's the way I sort of work with. It's more inner child work rather than the infant development stuff. So I know with some of our similar teachings, it gets up to the infant development stuff can go into when you're creating your first movement patterns your sort of bend, squat, and just how you're actually developing the spinal alignment and stuff like that, and how all those muscles are starting to actually start to function into firing the correct sequencing and stuff. But that's not essentially where my work goes. My work's much more on the energetical side of things and the psychology side of things.
Yeah. Now, Christopher, I'm kind of curious. Three guys talking about feelings and emotions and stuff. What would you say to somebody, a guy listening, who's going, "What the hell is all this about, man?"
That ties really right into the whole thing of big boys don't cry. Yeah, exactly. Where you're brought up in a potentially brought up in a society or a household where men are men who don't show emotions, who are very strong externally as well as internally and physically, and that any sign of emotion is a weakness and is potentially something that's frowned on and makes you more aligned with the female aspect of being a human being type thing, where they're potentially seen as just being emotional or irrational, and if you show emotion then you're becoming very much like that. So like I do like a lot of the sort of men's work, the men's development side of it, of connecting with the sort of masculine essence and teaching men, coaching men how to be more masculine and more in connection with their masculine energy. But that doesn't mean that they can't be emotional. It doesn't mean that they're not emotional. It actually means that they are more in tune with their emotions, and it means that they could break down and cry if such a traumatic event or stressful event happened, or they were going through something, some form of trauma, that they had a high level of a high intensity of emotion, whether it's grief, sadness, shame, or whatever. And if they choose to release that through tears, then they do so, but they do so without the fear of rejection, without the fear of judgment, without the fear of criticism from other people, because that takes a lot more balls. That takes a lot more courage and bravery for you to expose yourself in that way. So, and when I say expose yourself, I'm talking about being more vulnerable, being more authentic, more. You're taking the mask off and saying, look, I'm feeling like shit. Look, I'm feeling really to the core of me. I'm in pain here. I'm suffering. And I haven't chose this method to release it, but it's so overwhelming that I just have emotion coming out. And for most of us, the emotion that comes out is going to be tears. Sometimes it can come out in anger, but anger's still an emotion. But for the big tough man, the big man's man who goes out and fights every night or every weekend, that's still emotion. But that's maybe classed as okay because they've been taught. If I'm using that same analogy of big boys don't cry, he's doing this example of a man is doing the same thing, going out fighting every weekend, compared to the man who is overwhelmed and breaks down into tears. Both of them are still expressing emotion. It's just one can be perceived as okay and acceptable, and the other one might not be, based on programs that were installed in these individuals as children. So the big boys don't cry program, the typical stereotypical English stereotype is the stiff upper lip, where you don't actually communicate what you're feeling. You put on a pretense and you put on a mask, and again, you don't show emotions. So there's a very stereotypical English characteristic there as well. So that's along the lines of what I would say, if not exactly like that. So yeah, does that answer your question, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely. And piggybacking on that, I'm kind of curious because I genuinely don't know. I'm kind of curious as to, I guess we'll say your definition of the divine masculine. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, for me, the divine masculine, or the mature masculine, or the sacred masculine, it's all the same thing. It's just different labels. However, my definition for that is the masculine essence is very much about being present and being supportive for the feminine. So to actually and to be more in touch with yourself and to be okay with it, like I said on the example of, it takes a lot more courage, bravery, and strength to show how weak or how vulnerable and how raw you potentially are. So that is when you are much more authentic and much more in integrity with your true feelings and your true nature and where you really stand, and actually owning that will connect you a lot more to yourself, whether you're masculine or feminine, but that will make a lot more. And by connecting to your body more, you become a lot more grounded. Again, which is another masculine sort of trait, is the more grounded you are. Again, when I'm talking about masculine energy, this goes both for guys and women, because we have our own sort of split. From the readings that I've done, say figures are like 70-30, so a guy's 70% more masculine and 30% more feminine, and the feminine is more the 70-30, 70 on the 30 and 30 on the masculine, if you're in a male and female body type thing. But that can be, although I'm saying that, that's very sort of dictating. It doesn't mean that you can't be out of sorts of that. You might not. You might be the complete opposite of what I've just said, which is okay. However, if you're in a masculine physical body, then your normal sort of traits would be to be aligned with the 70-30 split. The 70, if you're in the male, then you should be more on aligned with that sort of 70% masculine energy type thing. And I'm kind of digressing a little bit and waffling on here, but what I was really wanting to say is it's about connecting to your presence, enhancing, cultivating your presence, being more grounded, and all those sort of things will create a much more. It's about creating more strength energetically and psychologically as well. Like if you've ever had an argument with another person or another guy type thing, and
never.
And you hear that the tone of voice is getting higher and higher, and they're maybe both bouncing off each other, or there's one guy who's particularly getting higher. It's like, no, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's not me. Type thing. They speak very fast. Their tone gets very high, which is showing them becoming more and more ungrounded. Whereas if you are, and that's showing how that you've totally lost your centeredness. You are also no longer supporting yourself. Whereas the other guy who hasn't sped up how quickly he's talking. His speed of speech hasn't changed. His tone may not have changed, or it's went lower and actually got deeper. And his movements have kind of slowed down a lot more as well, because his body language is also mimicking how he's talking. And he's shown a lot more groundedness. He's shown a lot more presence, and he's supporting himself a lot more. He's a lot more connected to his masculine. In that example, the guy who's high-pitched, jumping all over the place with his voice, has already lost the fight or confrontation verbally before he even gets anywhere near anything physical, if it was to escalate to that. And that kind of changed from what you actually originally asked me, but
hey, keep
I
going.
think you're completely right. I think
but
what you're saying is
the definition. The definition for the masculine, the one that I work on, is really about. It's not so much the definition of it, but I more work on, well, how can we cultivate you to be more connected to your masculine energy? How can we but how can we help show you how to cultivate more? And also, it's connecting to that whole thing of. I always use the sort of quote that's in Fight Club with Brad Pitt and Edward Norton, where it's sort of kind of at the beginning of the movie, and Brad Pitt says that we are a generation of men who were raised by women, which is very, very true at the same time as being very, very much in line with what you've asked there, because what you've got is men who are in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, 60s and upwards, who are still the teenage boy, or even worse, they're still the 8-year-old boy who never actually grew up and never went through the sort of rites of passage into manhood, because rites of passage is very much something that comes from a tribal nature, and we, as a Western sort of society, have very much lost our roots. We've lost the tribal nature of community, the tribal nature, the community in our society type thing. Everyone's very much their own home is their castle type thing, and everyone's online and on the computers and watching TV and stuff, and there's all the sort of communal things. Like if you ever watch any documentaries about tribes in Africa or Native American tribes or any of these things, there's a big community vibe around the fire, around cultivating crops, around going and hunting, and the stages of development that boys go through into manhood are still in place, whereas we've lost all that. So we now have men who never went through a sort of energetical or archetypal passage of becoming a man type thing. And that's not to blame any of the fathers type thing from the previous generation, but it's been lost along the way. It's like medicine men and the magic of the shaman, the magic of the medicine man has disappeared through the generations. As the further back you go, it's kind of, we've just become more and more disconnected, and more the focus has been on technology and moving forward and progression. And to be honest, you could almost say there's an argument to say that we've actually re-digressed, because we've lost our natural magic, we've lost our natural medicine, we've lost the natural way of living, which is a way of being a lot more happier in life, because we don't have this 9 to 5 Monday to Friday work ethic thing and having to go out to sort of make a living. And if you think back the hundreds and thousands of years, we were still living. We didn't have jobs, we just lived off the land, and we either moved or we had our own sort of land that we were in, whether it was ours or not, or we just kind of did that whole nomadic following either the animals or following where the seasons were less harsh and stuff. And I've totally got off track there and totally digressed, but it does connect to what I was saying about the masculine essence with regards to the rites of passage. There are many men who are still psychologically boys, and I know many women who will agree with that statement. And any time I speak to women and they ask me what it is I do, and I mention the men's development stuff, they're all like, "Oh, that's amazing, that's great, we need guys doing that." But then you tell the guys and they don't know what it is, and they're not so sure about it, and they're very hesitant, because it means that they need to face themselves. They need to face their own shit. They need to face their own issues, their own traumas, and they don't want to do that because big boys don't cry. And if they face these traumas, these big boys are going to cry.
Yeah.
So that was
Profound.
quite a lot. But any sort of comments, feedback, or any other questions on what I'd kind of mentioned there, Brian?
Oh man, that was answered my question and many more. That was fantastic stuff, man. Thank you.
Now, I just wanted to kind of jump in and
No, not allowed.
you know what, Brian? I'll hurt you. I'll hurt you through the screen. I'll use some remote injuring techniques, not remote
Right.
healing. So now I'm all lost. So I just wanted to speak about kind of these frameworks that we grow up with, right? And these preconceived notions, because they can really kind of stunt us in our development and growth. And yeah, it's not only physical. I like that you're getting into this aspect, because a lot of guys, they're like, oh, I need to be like a guy. I need to, stand here and be like a statue, not cry, and like, take abuse and not show any emotion. And no matter what I feel on the inside, I can't let that out. And I think that's kind of damaging, right?
No,
It's
definitely.
yeah, it's like holding like toxins inside. Like, so I'm really glad that you're working on that, and I hope more people will kind of realize it's okay to have emotions. It's okay to express yourself. And some people,
The thing is as well, it's at the moment with the examples that I use and stuff, it's like the there are certain emotions which are okay, like the anger, especially for the guy. It's okay for a guy to be angry, it's okay for him to fight, but that's actually still an emotion compared to it's not okay for him to cry. So it's just like you said, it's just about trying to open up the sort of perceptions and the viewpoints of people to say, look, if you think not being emotional, well, actually, you really are. You're just focused much more on these one or two emotions compared to a whole host of ones that we have.
Yeah, I've heard of them described as either hard emotions like anger or soft emotions like sadness or fear.
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, Chris, I just wanted to kind of change gears a little bit. What are your like top 2 or 3 books just overall that you love, you are just a big fan of, and you feel that have made a change in your life or clients' lives?
Oh,
It can also be fiction too. It can be Game of Thrones 1, 2, 3, whatever, 700, whatever they're on now.
man, I haven't read any fiction since I was about 11 or 12. Or in fact, since I was in school and they made you read fiction. But to be honest, it's more authors than specific books. But yeah, but one of the books, especially for guys, but it's still good for women to read, is I think it's the Way of the Superior Man, which is by David Data,
Good
an
stuff.
American, I believe. He's got a lot of good books, not just that one. And that's particularly good. It talks about masculine and feminine energies. It talks about polarity. It talks about archetypes as well. Another author that I like is Don Miguel Ruiz, who kind of talks about in the sort of Toltec shamans. And he's got a number of books. The one that I particularly like is The Mastery of Love. It might sound a bit wishy-washy on the title, but it's very much great for it's great for communication, not just in relationships, but communication with others, like owning your shit when you're being triggered. Like if someone's done something or a situation happens and you have a negative emotional reaction to it, actually being able to catch yourself and explore, well, hold on, this isn't this person's fault, but what is it in me, what's happened in my past, which is triggering these emotions type thing, which is very much really good personal development and personal growth work, is to do that sort of reflection. So that's the Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. He's also the author for The Four Agreements. And his son's also continued his work with his books and stuff, but that's a great shamanic book on the Toltecs. The Toltecs are just a sort of ancient sort of tribe, which have really good sort of a really good way of living. And what else do I have? A third book. Who else do I like? Well, I really like. Again, this is going to be on the men's side of things, but Iron John by Robert Blythe, and Blythe is Bly. That's a particularly good book to hear when it's being told as a story, as well as obviously reading the book yourself. But if you can get your hands on any of the recordings of some of the men who are reading it as a story to more groups of men, it's almost quite theatrical type thing. It's quite good.
Right on.
There you go. There's 3 authors and 3 books.
Thank you. I'll have to check them out for sure. Now, I had another question, but I'm blanking, so I'm going to throw Brian under the bus.
All right. So, after all this, touchy-feely, maybe call it feminine stuff.
How dare you?
Yeah, well, I dare.
There's nothing wrong with being feminine, by the way.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I completely agree. But for the masculine men out there, let's talk about sex, baby.
Oh man, I wanted to get into this with you two guys.
All right, now I'm blushing. No, I know you do a lot of work with Tantra, Christopher. Can you touch on that?
So the Tantra stuff really does connect closely just with more of the reconnection with yourself and the presence work for the guy, and also so it's working with. There are body work elements to it, but it's also meditation focused. People hear the word Tantra and they see things in a lot of the sort of Hollywood movies, and they think it's just all about sex and stuff like that. And there is an element of it to do with sacred sexuality and sacred healing, which is where you're looking at helping, for example, men or women who have had sexual trauma or sexual abuse or verbal abuse through sort of sexual connotations or events type thing, and the de-armouring bodywork can go into that as well, because what potentially will happen is if we're talking on a sort of energetical level and jumping back to when we mentioned the chakras and the energy zones. If you think about where the genitals are, they're at that sort of base of the spine area, which is right down at the sort of root energy zone or the root chakra. If you're getting blockages created there through sexual abuse, then what can happen and what has happened to some of the people that I've worked with is that they shut down and become numb in that area. They just try to shield themselves because the experience they had as a child was a very painful one. They just didn't have any positivity around it, and I've known people to really have that sort of not distract them, but they just basically shut down on a physical, mental, and emotional level to it because of that. So on a sacred sexuality side, that's where the Tantra stuff can come into. But that also still kicks into energetical stuff. It kicks into psychology side of stuff as well, like psychologically, like what are you pushing through. You can use lots of very, very soft techniques to bring up issues or triggers that are connected to those events, like eye gazing or mirror meditations where you're simply looking at yourself in the mirror, or you can do written exercises with partners or in groups and retreats where you're working in circle, where everyone's holding space for everyone and is there to witness each other's sort of progression and moving forward in development. But and then the other side of it is when you're getting down to the whole aspect of sexual energy and cultivating sexual energy and having sexual energy flowing, and are you doing that in a healthy way? Are you doing that in an unhealthy way? Or have you got unhealthy sexual habits? Have you got healthy sexual habits? And also, what are these healthy or unhealthy habits like pornography and things like that.
That's a healthy habit, right?
Which is
Oh, sorry.
that's going to be a whole different podcast. That's going to be one on its own if you want to go there.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, I'd definitely be interested in doing that on another day.
I
Well,
will see. Get Paul Check on, interview Paul Check, and he'll give you plenty.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know he's already got a couple of really good
YouTube's on
blog
it.
posts as well as YouTube videos on sort of pornography, ED, which is erectile dysfunction, and a number of stuff which is all connected with pornography as well, especially now that pornography has evolved from the old VHS video tapes onto the click, click, click of the mouse type thing.
Blu-ray.
That just kicks into all addictive habits and things like that. But that's, like I said, it's a whole different topic there. But yeah, so that kind of, with regards to cultivating sexual energy and stuff, David Dada speaks about that on a number of his books, as well as the way of the superior man or superior warrior. Can't remember which way around it is. Mantak Chia is also another sort of Asian master, does a lot of sort of qigong work, in sexual energy cultivation and body work, which again, it's all about releasing blockages. It's all about releasing negative emotions or negative associations or limiting beliefs around a subject. You just simply focused on the subject of sexuality through the label of Tantra. Because there's, like, even in Tantra, there's subcultures of white Tantra, pink Tantra, and all these colours, which I'm like, what the hell's that? Urban Tantra and new Age Tantra, and it's like they all have some sort of specific definition to it. And to be honest, I avoid getting hung up on labels. For example, the body work that I do, the De-Armouring, you can also find it under Tantric De-Armouring or Shamanic De-Armouring. It's still very much De-Armouring, but it's probably different ways of doing it, or it's doing the same thing from a different way or a different angle to it. So for me, it's about multiplying the perceptions that we have and opening your awareness to, instead of looking at it as a box, and actually looking out of the box type thing, looking at it from every angle, not just straight on. So the tantrist side of things is very much about, you can go into the sacred sexuality side, or you can go into the personal development, personal growth, spiritual growth aspect of it, because Tantra has a huge spiritual element to it, especially coming from the Indian background that it has, and the sort of Hinduism and the Kama Sutra and all that sort of stuff like that. There's a lot of depth and richness in the culture of where Tantra as a label was sort of born, and it is a huge subject, and because of how it's portrayed in Hollywood and stuff, it really gets a one-dimensional focus on, like, sex and how to go on for hours and hours and hours.
Brian wanted to know how to achieve multiple male orgasms, but I guess he's not going to find that out from you, Chris.
Well, he can buy from Mantak Chia. He's got the multi-orgasmic man and or the multi-orgasmic male, which I've not read it personally yet, but I do know that a lot of Mantak Chia's books have physical exercises, qigong-based exercises, based around the sort of Taoism and whatever sort of knowledge and where he's sourced his information from and stuff, to work on that. But yeah, it's a huge subject, and I don't think people give it the respect that it needs. And
I was just poking fun at you a little bit with the multiple male organs.
That's wasn't to get you.
Yeah.
Just anytime if you mention that word or people overhear it, they go to the movie that I like is the sort of American Pie series of, I think in the second movie he goes on about studying Tantra and stuff, and it's all about connected to the sexual side of things, which it does have, but it's much more. It's more about intimacy, rather than just like how long can you have sex for or how good is it. It's about connecting on a deeper level. And if you read any of the David Data stuff, he talks about sexual energy and sort of the wave, and like, so you're coming up onto your peak. And I'm not talking about when you're going to orgasm stuff, but you feel the energy rise, but then suddenly something may happen and it drops, like the energetic feel of it, like you sort of lose connection. You lost a level of intimacy, which then means that you're both no longer as connected or connected at all to your partner as you were, which then can sometimes be a place of where couples can then suddenly go from lovemaking to actually having arguments because something's just not felt right, or why are you doing it that way, or you're not actually present here with me right now, where are you, type thing. And this connects into the masculine work about the guy not being able to hold his own presence, his own level of presence, to be able to give his partner, his woman, 100% attention, type thing. Like the guy, another metaphor or analogy I use is the guy just sitting watching TV. Maybe it's a sports game, or he's just flicking through the channels, and the girlfriend, the partner, the wife is trying to speak to him at the same time, and he's still flicking through the channels going, and then she goes, what did I say? Oh, what? And then he gets all hell, because he's just not paying attention, he's not listening. And it's on an energetical level, it's very disrespectful. On an energetical level, it can hurt, as well as on an emotional level. So as much as there is jokey elements and stuff like that, I still think that
it's much more three-dimensional.
You can go heavy with it as well.
Yeah.
Like you can keep it soft and playful and things like that, as long as it's everyone's aware that's what's going on there. But it can get heavy, and because there's a seriousness to it. It's like, look, how are you going to be disrespectful with a person? Are you going to be respectful? Are you going to honor the space that you're creating and actually give all your attention, or are there reasons that you're not? Is there something that you need to share? Is there something that you need to own, which is again kicking back to potential previous stress, previous trauma, previous childhood beliefs and limiting beliefs and programs being installed and stuff like that. So like that, just the conversation right now could go any way, because I've covered so much in just that little statement. But yeah, to come back to what Brian was saying, like the sexual element of Tantra, there's a number of techniques, there's a number of ways that you can cultivate your energy, there's a number of ways that you can go into that. But again, when you are going into that, it is a conscious decision. And by conscious, I'm not saying, well, I'm awake, so I'm conscious. It's like, look, I'm making a commitment to trying to increase my knowledge and my awareness and my ability to connect with someone. And that's a big commitment to do. So if that's something that you want to do, great. And that will open up your eyes to the perceptions that you have of life, or the perceptions that you have around intimacy, around relationships, around sex and sexual contact. But yeah,
So
big subject.
it's a huge subject. It can go for probably days.
Yeah. How deep do you want to dive down the rabbit hole?
Well, you know what? I've just got a question to kind of backtrack just a little bit. I'm wondering, because like we are kind of like immersed in this stuff, so we kind of understand. But how would you, like, what would you say to skeptics? Like somebody listening right now, they're like, what the hell does this mean? Energy, tantra, like do you get a lot of skeptics, or I guess because of the nature of your practice, you get people that are more open to this energy type work and these ideas?
Well, yeah, like because of the work that I do, like typically I'm in circles where people are already exposed to energy healing, whether it's and energy healing can be happening whether you're having a massage or whether someone's giving you Reiki or doing some form of shamanic work on you, and simply being in someone's presence. It all depends on the person, but yeah, like the people that I do come across they've already received some form of alternative therapy that works to a level that they understand the work that I do. So I guess almost skeptical people will never actually come to me because they've probably already picked up some of my materials or they've already seen my website and they're like, what the hell, this is a load of shit. So this isn't for me, it doesn't resonate with them. And that's cool, that's where they're at. I learnt a very hard lesson, which was basically around the metaphor of you can take the horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. And I stopped trying to force people to understand what I do a number of years ago. Because I have such a big heart and wanted to help so many people. It was like, you need to do this and you need to do that and you need to see this and you need to believe that. And then having a very personal connection to whether they accepted the information or rejected it. And if they rejected the information, not only were they doing that, but they were rejecting me.
Oh, man, yeah.
And that was a huge lesson for me to go with. Ultimately, if I get people that are really skeptical, I'll talk using language, using a language that will be better suited to them. So I'll talk about maybe more the psychology side of things. I'll talk about personal development, simply improving how you look on life, how you see things, improving mindset, having more positive outlooks on things, looking at the bigger picture and seeing a situation from more than just one or two angles, from seeing it from multiple angles, from multiple people, and also to look at how judgmental are you being, how criticizing are you being, and what is it are you actually judging, what are you actually criticizing? Because ultimately, if you're judging someone based on your personal filters, and your personal filters are those childhood limiting beliefs that you were taught. Big boys don't cry, money doesn't grow on trees, children should be seen and not heard. They are filters, how you look on the world and how you look at your life and the reality you create. So I can talk airy-fairy, energy and magic and nature beings and all that sort of stuff to the right people. But if I'm not speaking to those sort of people, I will speak a lot more grounded. I'll use a lot more grounded language. I'll use a lot more grounded terms. I'll just speak to them at the level they're at. And that's not to say that I'm not the person. Sorry. What I'm trying to say is I've also spoke to people where I was like, God, they're flying and they've lost it, they're off the planet type thing. And I've experienced that as well. And for me, because of the work that I do, it's not that I think they're totally gone. It's just simply, for me, it's more a case of wherever this person is and the energy that they have, I don't resonate with it. But then I also get the opportunity to go, well, why don't I resonate about it? What is it about them I don't like? Because ultimately what it is about them I don't like, it's simply a mirror for what I don't like in myself type thing. And that's really deep work. That can, if you live life like that, where you try to use your external life as a reflection for your internal life that you do not fully see or fully understand, you can open up your perceptions and your awareness really quickly if you live your life like that.
Yeah, dude, that's an amazing point. Like, it's like, yes, the external reflects the internal reflects the external. It's like it like doesn't click for most people, but I think that's a fantastic point to see it through that lens.
And that's saying what I just said wasn't airy-fairy. It's simply, well, look at a situation, what's happening. So you're going into an analytical process, which is a very scientific thing to do. It's very left-brained. And if you're speaking to someone left-brained who's not open to the more spiritual side of energy or what energy is, just talk to them in a different way, and that's what I do. So yeah.
Awesome. Now, I'm not sure about your neighbor if they're going to be sawing this podcast in half again. So
Yeah, you finish up, guys.
yeah, I feel like we should probably start wrapping up. Now, Brian, I know you are the wrap-up king, so
Yes.
he's a rapper, everyone.
Right. Anyways,
Thanks.
not even remotely. So a couple of questions to finish up. First one being, who would you want to hear on this podcast, and what would you want to hear them talk about?
I'll go with what I said earlier and give you a challenge of getting Paul on here to speak about pornography.
Oh
That would
man.
be wonderful,
Oh, I've
and a
got
challenge as well.
it would be. I've got one more question. Now, what are two steps the average person can take today? Like two things to do. It doesn't have to be sequential or whatever. To kind of live a better life, a happier life. More fulfilling. Just two things that can change and stick with that would make a big change. It doesn't have to be super deep, but
No, I'm just going to say simple things is on a mindset level, simple sort of gratitude. Gratitude for what you have or what you've experienced, whether it's a negative or positive situation type thing, because there's always a lesson to learn. So simply acknowledging gratitude for what's happened in your day can be a really simple and sounds really it sounds kind of soft or kind of how can that impact on my life, but by being more grateful, having more gratitude and appreciation, you're putting your mind into a much more positive state. And if that's something that you do on a regular basis, then it becomes a habit. And if you form that habit, you're also forming the habit of creating more positive thoughts, which has a physical reaction on the chemical level of the brain and the body. And if you get into even more depth stuff with um, Dr. Emoto's sort of messages in water and things like that, if we are sort of 70-80% water, and the more positive that we are, that's on a vibrational level, it goes out. And you said keep it simple, and I'm getting deep, so I'm going to
that's
say
fine.
simply,
I love this stuff.
yeah. I'm going to say simply being more grateful, which will help the mindset side of things. And probably be more. What's coming to me right now is something to do with more joy, more happiness. Do something that's going to make you happy. That's going to bring more joy into your life. That might just be a 5 minute walk or run, or watching some comedy for 5-10 minutes, or doing something like an activity. Do something that's going to bring more joy in your life, because a lot of people have that negative mindset and a negative reality where life's tough, life's hard. They have a crappy job.
It's against them.
Yeah, they're not earning enough money to live a good lifestyle. So find something that you can do which is going to shift that that mindset and do something positive. And I think Tony Robbins talks a lot about that, about shifting your state of mind. Do something. If you're in a negative state of mind, do something different. Think about 5 to 10 things that you're grateful for. Go and do something that's going to bring joy and happiness into your life, whether it's a run, which will get your endorphins going, or whether you go and give someone a hug, or whether you text someone to say how much you appreciate their friendship. All that sort of stuff. You are acting on. You're creating action. You're doing something. You're going from A to B to change the state of your mindset.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I mean the gratitude thing. I've been working on that. I picked up a 5 minute journal last week. I don't know if you're familiar with that. If you've got that over in.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Some people do gratitude meditation. Some people do gratitude journals. Some people are just simply grateful every day, I guess you could say like a prayer type thing.
mhm.
But it's just a verbal. So yeah, anything. I mean, you can write it, you can say it, you can think it, you can do it.
And I have to say, since I've started it, I have not been overly angry or sad or anything. Like I'm generally pretty level, but I do have some ups and downs. But since
Mm,
I've started the journal, it's like it's kept me grounded, man. It's awesome. And
cool.
I never thought writing down, what you appreciate most and what you hope for the day will help you this much. But it's like damn, it's like
Yeah,
magic.
there's the simple things that can make a big difference when you add them together. So like day after day after day after day, then you're up to a month, then you're up to 6 months, then you're up to a year. So that's a nice commitment to have, and it will have big rewards.
Yeah, awesome. And so, Brian, I will now throw it your way.
All right.
Now that I'm good,
Good. I'm glad you're good, man.
it's
Um,
all about me.
it is. It's your world. We're just living in it, man.
That's I don't want to say yeah, but
Yeah.
anyway.
So, Christopher, how would you define, or you can give us the name of a person that who you think is the optimum human?
It can either be like a model, or you can say like me, myself, Christopher Peacock. I am the optimum human. Uh, but yeah, just it can be either a person or whatever.
I don't have a direct or straight straight answer to that, because there's many people that I try and take certain aspects or model on them, as in like model good habits and good traits and things. So I don't believe that there's not one person I'm following. It's more a case of there's many people that I'm following and
So it's like a
trying to
Frankenstein.
a little bit. You take little pieces from everyone. No,
Yeah.
like that. He's saying that as a joke, but on a serious level, it's just you take small things from different people. So like you've got Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins, you've got Paul Chek, you've got Elliot Hulse is very similar with how he's doing everything that he's doing in the main stuff and connecting to your balls, as he likes to refrain.
Breathe
So
into
he
your
likes
balls.
yeah, breathe into your balls, deepen your breath, and do a lot of bioenergetic stuff. Who else? Then you've got people like the David Data, Mantak Chia, and all the people that I kind of mentioned earlier. You can take many elements from that. Someone I'm working with just now is Casey James Comden as well, and just learn from as many people as possible and make it you. Not make it your own, but make it you. Like if they've got good, healthy habits and they're living a lifestyle that you would like to emulate, then model yourself on these people or model yourself on the traits of the people. And you'll get there and you'll have the sort of life and lifestyle that you want.
Beautiful. So, Christopher, how can our listeners find out more about you, and how can they contact you?
Cool. Well, Claude mentioned earlier, so my website is sacredscotsman.co.uk. And people can find out more about my work on that, or they can contact me through my email address there, and it's chris@sacredscotsman.co.uk. And yeah, happy to connect with people. I've got my Facebook page, The Sacred Scotsman, as well, and yeah, that's how people can find me. If
Beautiful.
I'm travelling. Well, you can get me regardless where I'm travelling, but at the moment I'm in Scotland, so
Yeah,
yeah.
he's a very connected person, both spiritually and with his iPad
Absolutely.
or whatever. But thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you taking your time to kind of spend it with us and spread your message and energy kind of into the world. And hopefully we've gotten still about 3 or 4 people listening that have taken some big change. But I think only like 2 or 3 are listening to begin with. So if we're up by 4, I think we're great. But
Absolutely.
thank you very.
It's been enlightening, man. Thanks so much.
No problem, man.
Yeah.
It's been good doing it, and I hope you guys have a lot of success with doing your interviews and your podcasts and stuff.
Yeah, we hope so too. And you know what? This is territory that people are kind of scared to travel into, at least the general population, because what you were saying before, like airy fairy, kind of like, people are taught to be like, oh, don't believe in this, believe in that, these frameworks. So I thank you for actually being in the field that you're in, because the world needs more of this. You know what I mean? It's
Thank you.
yeah. So thank you again for being on, and I believe we're out of questions and out of time. I don't hear the saw buzzing just yet, but
Not
I'm
yet.
sure he's coming for you.
Let me know. Started again.
Well, Chris, awesome having you on. We'll have to have a part 2, maybe when you're in. Where are you going? California, or East
I'll be going to Florida.
Florida? So the other California.
The Virgin Islands as well.
Oh,
Perfect.
beautiful, man. Beautiful. And people can find out about that. Is that going to be an open trip, or is that just for your personal
Well, I'm going to
development?
be that's going to be a retreat. So there's going to be a 7-day retreat on St. Croix, which is one of the Virgin Islands, and I'll be getting details out about that, and that will be on my website as well. So it'll be a sort of holistic 7-day retreat, sort of transformation. So we're going to have 7 days of yoga, qigong, meditation, healthy eating, working on a lot of stuff, getting connected to ourselves and connected to the earth and stuff like that. So I believe the accommodation we've got is very coastal, so we'll kind of hopefully jump on the beach and kind of get in and do a lot of exercise and stuff on the beach. So looking forward to it, and it'll be the first time that I've came out to the States, so that's going to be awesome.
That is awesome. And for people who are interested in that, I mean, I'm definitely interested, so I'll check it out. But check out his website, sacredscotsman.co.uk. Christopher, thank you again for coming on, and we hope to speak to you again soon.
Cool. Thanks a lot, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
All right. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Optimum Human Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to head on over to iTunes and give a 5-star rating and review, which will help spread the word to more awesome listeners just like you. Head on over to theoptimumhuman.com and subscribe to the free newsletter and get the Optimum Human's Blueprint to the Optimum Life. Download it instantly. Thanks for listening.